You ever hear about some brilliant new innovation, something that's supposed to change the world, but then it just falls flat? Today, we're jumping into the world of coffee farming to solve a really fascinating puzzle. Why these so-called silver bullet solutions almost never work, and what it teaches us about the huge difference between making more and actually earning more.
And our guide for this deep dive is an awesome 2023 research paper from Christophe Montagnan. Honestly, it holds the key to unlocking this whole mystery.
So picture this, you're a coffee farmer, and someone comes to you with this incredible promise. They tell you that you can get 2, maybe even 3 times more coffee from the very same land. I mean, that sounds like a total game changer, right? Who wouldn't want that?
And for decades, that's been the main goal of most agricultural research. It was all about increasing yield. The big metric, the number everyone was chasing, was kilograms of coffee per hectare. The more you could grow, the better. Or so everyone thought.
Okay, but here's the head-scratcher. If these new methods are so amazing, if they can literally triple a harvest, why isn't every single coffee farm on the planet using them? Why is there this massive gap between what's promised in the lab and what's actually happening on the ground?
Now, we're not talking about a little gap here. It's a giant chasm. You have brilliant scientists creating these groundbreaking solutions, but then you look at the fields, and the vast majority of farmers are sticking with what they've always done. Something is just not adding up.
For a long time, the easy answer from the experts and technical teams was, well, just blame the farmer. The thinking was, farmers are just resistant to change, or they're stuck in their ways, or maybe they just don't get it.
But Montagnan's research asks this really powerful question. What if we've got it completely backwards? What if the farmers aren't being stubborn at all? What if they're being perfectly rational? What if the solution itself is the problem?
And this brings us right to the heart of it all, the one idea that unlocks this entire puzzle. It's the huge and often completely ignored difference between yield and profitability. And believe me, they are not the same thing.
Let's break this down. It's actually super simple. Yield is the total amount of stuff you grow, the total volume of coffee. Think of it like your gross salary, that big number at the top of your paycheck. But profitability, that's your net pay. That's your take-home pay. It's the actual money in your pocket after all the costs and deductions are gone. And that's the only number that really matters, right?
See, a farmer is running a business. They don't just see a bigger harvest. They're doing some quick math in their head. First, they ask, okay, how much extra is this new thing going to cost me? In supplies, in labor, in my own time? Then, how much extra money will I actually get from selling that extra coffee? And then comes the million-dollar question. Is the extra income going to be more than the extra cost? If the answer is no, it's not a solution, it's just more work for less money.
And that's the whole point. Farmers aren't resistant to change. They are expert entrepreneurs who are constantly trying to optimize their return on investment. They're making smart, rational economic decisions based on what will actually improve their lives, not just what looks good on a PowerPoint slide.
So if the old way is broken, what's the fix? Well, the paper suggests a total refresh of the whole R&D strategy, one that puts the farmer's real-world economic situation front and center.
This new model just flips the whole script. Instead of starting in a lab, you start on the farm. You actually try to understand the farmer's real-world limitations, their access to cash, to labor, to resources. And only then do you start designing solutions that give a clear, obvious return on their investment. The goal totally shifts from just making more to making things more profitable.
And this really forces us to rethink what it even means to help someone, doesn't it? It's about moving away from these top-down, we-know-best solutions and towards a real partnership that respects the knowledge and smart decision-making of the very people we're trying to support.
So let's wrap up with the big takeaways. First, the real goal has to be profitability, the take-home pay, not just gross yield. Second, we have to see farmers for who they are, savvy, rational entrepreneurs. And third, for any new idea to be truly helpful, it has to pay for itself and then some. It's really that simple.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought. This whole thing isn't really just about coffee. Think about it. In our own jobs, in our communities, in big policy debates, where else are we confusing more with better? Where else might we be chasing a bigger yield while completely missing the profitability that truly matters?